Hello, I'm Reggie Brock, and if you've been in roofing for more than 6 months, this topic of managed repair programs is something you've heard about, you've probably read about, and there's just been a lot of noise on the subject. So I wanted to take some time today and describe for you actually what managed repair is, because I think that most people are basing decisions on participation in managed repair programs strictly on feelings, and they give no real thought to it. And so to have really productive thoughts, you really need good, solid information. So you might be asking, well, what in the world do you know about managed repairs and what makes you an expert in this field? Let me tell you why. I spent 23 years in the insurance business, so I understand why insurance companies do what they do. I spent 7.5 years knocking doors like many of you do to make a living. I know what it is to climb up on roofs. I know what it is to deal with adjusters and unhappy homeowners. So I kind of understand the feelings that you have in terms of your day-to-day business. And then the third thing is I worked for a managed repair program for 2.5 years. So if you put all three of those pieces of the triangle together, I think that I can provide you some data that will do really just one or two things for you. Number one, I think it's going to equip you to have a better understanding from a thought process so that you can make a better decision, whether or not managed repairs for you or not. A lot of people try to drum up a lot of emotions. I'm just going to give you facts. And I think we do that by answering, first of all, three questions. Number one, is managed repair, like we've heard recently, the new evil empire? Is managed repair something that's trying to destroy your business as a contractor? Number two, I think we need to answer the question, is managed repair, third-party administrators, are they a trend or is this truly an industry shift? Because guys, if it's a trend, it'll go away. It's kind of like leisure suits in the 70s. We don't wear them anymore because they're outdated and out of style. Well, but if it's an industry shift, it's going to change things forever. The third thing is, what financial impact does this actually have on contractors? Because it's got to make sense to you financially and other contractors for them to want to participate in a program like this. So we're going to look at those three. I hope those three questions are answered for you today as we kind of go through this presentation. All right. So with managed repair, I'm going to tell you this. I really believe that history does repeat itself, and you're going to see that in this whole managed repair process. Here's what folks think. They think that managed repair is something that's quickly come upon them, that there's like it came out of nowhere, but it's actually not the case. There's a lot of history and a lot of things that you're seeing today that have that were done in the past. We just never noticed it because it's never been in roofing. So let's talk about those things. Number one, Medicare, and back in the 1980s was the first representation not of managed repair but managed care. And let me tell you just a minute what I'm talking about. In the 80s, Medicare was literally being drained financially by hospitals and the medical professional because there was no way really to gauge care in terms of reimbursement. And so what Medicare did is, because what was happening is hospitals were letting people come in with head colds and stay 2 weeks, right? They didn't need to do that. And so what Medicare said is, we're going to put a system in place, and it's called DRGs, Diagnostic Research Groups. And what that meant was this. If you have a specific diagnosis, we're going to tie days in financial reimbursement in the hospital to that diagnosis. So if you've got a head cold, we might pay 2 days, and if it's more extreme, we'll pay more. But we're not telling you that if you go into the hospital for a head cold, you can't stay more than 2 days. We just ain't paying for it because it was being abused. Why did hospitals keep people in the hospital for 2 weeks for a head cold? Because they could. Finally, Medicare said, we're going to stop that. So that was kind of the first advent, if you will, of change medically. They started forcing proper behavior in the medical arena. Then it kind of went to the next degree, which most of us are probably more familiar with, and that's these medical networks, the HMOs, the PPOs, things like that. And so what was really interesting about this in the beginning in the 90s and into the 2000s was this was the first sign of a win-win arrangement. Basically what was happening is insurance companies had this big, huge pot full of policyholders, right? And people who needed medical attention. So what the insurance company did is said, we have X amount of policyholders that if and when they need your business, or need your services, we'd like to send them to you. We ask for one thing in exchange. And you know what that was? Advanced agreed upon pricing, right? So they went to these medical providers, hospitals, doctors, and said, look, how many people do you see a day? And the doctor might say, well, we have, 8, 10 people that come in a day. And the insurance company said, how'd you like 80? We can't force people to come to you, but what we're going to do is we're going to give you access to our policyholders, which was huge. And the only thing that we ask in return is that we fix pricing up front so that this abuse and overspend might happen. Guys, this is not just a new trend that's hitting roofing. It's something that's gone on historically for years and years and years. It's just never been in our backyard. Then auto got involved through the auto damage service repair program. What that meant was that the auto companies were deciding that if they wanted, the same thing held true. If I want a big policyholder base like major insurance companies have, rather than me marketing directly to these individual policyholders or putting up signs across waiving deductibles or whatever they did to attract attention, they said, all right, we want in on what the health insurance guys have. So the insurance company said, okay, we'll do the same thing on auto. So you start seeing these repair shops pop up everywhere. They only had to have one agreement basically in place, and that was we're going to have pre-approved pricing. Now, I'm telling you right now, mechanics and body shops fought all the way until one day they realized we're going to get a lot of volume through this. All we have to do is be fair on our pricing. Because at the end of the day, honestly, the auto insurance divisions of insurance companies said, we're tired of paying $5,000 to replace a fender when it should cost us $500. I'm going to talk about that more in just a second. And finally, property in the interior insurance side of things, property coverage got involved. So if you see the Service Pros and all those companies running around that are, basically involved in fire and water mitigation, they're basically MRP'S, managed repair programs with third-party administrators. And so what they had to do is get access to large groups of people, policyholders as we know them today, but they had to agree upon pricing. So rather than a drought costing $5,000, it was charged out at $500. What's the exchange? Big policyholder basis for fixed pricing. It's a smart business proposition. So this is not brand new. Right? The next absolute territory to be occupied from a managed repair standpoint is property exterior, which is why we're talking today. So again, I show you this to prove to you that this is not some new beast out of the east coming. This is something that has grown, and there are things that are created, or this happens when certain triggers are actually pulled, which I'm going to talk about now. So why does this happen? Well, 100% of the time, it's a market correction because two things have happened. The insurance companies feel, first of all, there's overpayments being made. And the second thing is they feel like there's a lot of fraud going on in that particular part of their business. In this case, property exterior. So I know some of you are seeing this video and you're saying, the last thing the insurance company does, Reggie, is overpay claims. Well, I'm going to give you an example here that'll prove to you what I'm saying is true, right? And I'll prove to you that there is overpayment and that probably you've participated in it, not trying to be in the wrong or trying to be fraudulent, but let me prove it to you. So have you ever been out and got an insurance claim, worked with the homeowner, and there were gutters on the claim, right? And the homeowner was struggling to get deductible. And so you recommended, and you rightfully could, that they could use money for the gutters to offset some of their out-of-pocket expense, whether it was deductible or whether it was upgrades or whatever. And honestly, you can take ACV money and do with it whatever you want, right? But if you exclude the repair and use the money for out-of-pocket expenses and you don't do the work, you're not supposed to send a full RCV that includes depreciation release for those gutters because you didn't do the work. Now, how many of you ever done that? Right? That's an overpayment. If you collect money and you don't do work, that's an overpayment. Think about the thousands of claims year in and year out where overpayment is paid on small items like that. And the second thing is, to make that happen, you have to commit invoicing, you have to create invoicing that is fraudulent, period. You can't ask for full recoverable depreciation on items that you did not complete or do. So you see, the insurance company, those triggers have created this response. Again, like in medical, the insurance company and property is looking and saying, we're overpaying claims, and now we have proof of fraudulent invoicing. Something's got to be done. So property, exterior, in terms of the insurance company making a move at us to control behavior, is upon us. So again, we exclude repairs, we monkey around with deductibles, and guess what happens? The insurance companies lose all trust in us, and guess what? You've lost trust in them too. Okay? This is a war that has gone on for years and years and years and will continue, but I'm here to tell you, managed repair is trying to correct what's perceived to be bad behavior by contractors through overpayment and fraud. All right, so let's look more in detail about auto and property. See, auto is the model that property is going to follow. And there's some comparatives here. Number one, auto was profitable until 2016. So why? Well, first of all, let me tell you this. Why 2016? Because in 2016, there were billions and billions and billions, and you can look it up for yourself because I don't want to say something I shouldn't say and be, in terms of a number, but just look at State Farm's losses from 2016. Up until 2016, though, auto was the profitable side of insurance, right? So why is that? Well, number one, they have a mature managed repair network. Remember, we've talked about they've got pop-up repair shops all across the country, and they say, you're a policyholder of ours, go see them. All you got to do is pay your deductible. We've agreed upon pricing, no hassle. That is a very, very mature network. The second thing is the insurance company, listen to this, they have knowledge of parts and labor costing models. Literally today, when a new car or a new truck or whatever vehicle comes off the production line, the insurance company has worked out a deal with most, if not all, the manufacturers to literally bring that model into a repair center, so to speak, and they literally pull it apart. And you know why they do that? They want to know, with this relationship with the manufacturer, exactly what it costs to put a fender back on. Material and labor. So what they've done is they've reduced through process and through planning and through being able to look and to see what's average or it's reasonable to do a repair on a fender. That's why Frank's Body Shop in XYZ USA can't charge somebody $5,000 anymore for a $500 fender fix. They can, but the homeowner or the policyholder has to pay the difference. And guys, that's not going to flow with most policyholders. So in auto, the insurance company, due to the relationship with the manufacturers, has really been able to reduce, and they basically take the unknown out of estimating. It's been eliminated, which has created high profit margins and allowed them to be in a different place than property. So let's continue to look at why property is not profitable. Well, the same holds true. They have an immature but growing network. They're building out contractor network across the country, but it's a slow process. It's just not mature. Secondly, they have very unrefined repair processes. You know as well as I do, going out and looking on a roof, there's things that are missed. It's not scientific yet enough because there's so many moving parts on a roof and exterior. There's a lot of things that still have to be discovered and refined. The next thing is as a result, all these unrefined repair processes, there leaves way too many unknowns. So listen to me, everybody gets defenses. I'm not getting paid enough on supplements. So it's just that constant fight that's going on because there's still too many unknowns. As a result, the insurance company feels like they're receiving overscoped estimates reflecting in overpricing of labor and material and resulting in overpayment. Listen, once they lose trust, everything we do as contractors gets under the microscope. They don't believe one thing that we're saying because if they feel like if we're charging them more because we're not doing work that they paid for, they've got to look at everything that we're doing. So every scope that comes in their estimation is reflecting overpayment or overpricing in labor and material. Here's what you need to know. Property wants to mirror auto. This is where MRP, managed repair, third-party administration relationships are going. It's just that simple. Again, this is not new. This has modeled itself throughout the insurance industry for the last 30, 40 years. It's just now made it to our backyard. So as you talk about third-party administrators and managed repair programs, what are their future objectives? This is really important so that kind of help you see where this thing's going. Number one, they want to build and manage, and that's the key word here, independent contractor networks nationwide, right? So the management side of it means this. They really actually want to handle the process from FNOL to job complete. Now, maybe you don't know what FNOL is. That's first notice of loss. Homeowner thinks they've got damage on their property. They pick up the phone and call that 800 number. Whoever answers that phone is first notice of loss. Historically, what it's done is as that claim is filed, it's just internally processed. It's not like that anymore. Now it's a quick handoff to their third-party administrator or their managed repair company who handle everything. Everything. They use software like Xactimate to establish labor and material pricing. They manage all the contractors' behavior through SLAs. And let me stop and say this. This is the biggest challenge that MRPs and third-party administrators face, is taking a network of contractors who have done very, very well for themselves, and they're not going to be told what to do, right? So the biggest thing that the insurance company is looking for is to create a five-star experience for the customer. And I'm going to tell you guys, whether you like this or not, if you cannot comply to guidelines suggested by the carrier, you don't need to worry about participation, because protecting the contractor, the customer experience with the homeowner is the single most important thing that they care about. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But this thing from FNOL to job complete is being managed totally different, and it's being outsourced to third-party administrators and managed repair programs. It's happening right before our eyes right now. So there's really just a couple of things that when you accept an assignment that the third party or MRP program is asking of you. They don't ask you, they just tell you who you're going to see, where the property is located, what you need to do, and when you have it finished. This is not comfortable for most guys, but I'm just telling you because of the bad behavior, the perceived bad behavior, or because they are sensing overpayment, and I think that I've addressed that, and fraud, they're going to come with both feet on the ground as quickly as possible and establish new engagement rules so that only those who are willing to comply and build their business on the right type of behavior and character are going to get these type of leads. And let me tell you something. When you can take the hassle out of choosing a contractor from homeowners, that's something that really appeals to them. Don't ever forget that. And the last thing that these managed repair programs, third-party administrators are going to be focused on is a grading system, because that doesn't just mean the contractor groups. That means every individual the contractor sends out to have an experience with the homeowner, they're being judged, because these managed repair programs cannot afford bad representation to the homeowner from the lead or the assignment given by the carrier. So today, what does roofing look like, right? Number one, 51% of roofs sold today are retail jobs, right? This is from ARMA, so if you want to check my data, it's in there. So 51% of all the roofs sold this year will be sold retail. 14% are new construction. 35% are insurance claims, right? Now, what's this? What's really interesting is that 35%, 75% of that group is paid by the top 10 carriers. The top 10 carriers take care of 75% of every insurance claim that is paid out every year. Now, here's what's interesting. They're the ones that are participating in structuring and building the managed repair programs quickly, because they have the most market share to take care of. Only makes sense, right? Here's the biggest challenge to this. Less than 1% of these 75% of the 35%, so to speak, stay with me, are MRP jobs. Can you imagine when that less than 1% becomes 5%, 6%, 7%, the noise and the noise that it's going to create? I've heard so much noise in the market on less than 1% share. So guys, this is not going away. It's growing. And here's what growth is going to be involved. So let's talk about the future. Number one, MRP carriers are going to expand, or there's an expansion in their focus. Now what that means is this. Many managed repair companies fight for exclusive relationships. That's not going to happen in the future because carriers, especially the top 10, have way too much activity and coverage requirement to let one guy handle that. So you're going to see more. Why? Because they need more coverage, they need fuller capacity or more capacity, and without losing the 5-star customer experience. So when you see dirt and there's property on it, they got to find somebody who will service and create the 5-star customer experience. And guys, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how big the managed repair program is. They can't facilitate that. It's going to require expansion of relationship. So rather than one carrier having one managed repair company, they may have 5. Here's the big reason. If you're watching this video, you probably understand that retention and acquisition is very, very important in terms of calculating your business risk. So if you know probably as well that acquiring customers is more expensive than retaining customers. So what's the key? Why do they place so much emphasis on the 5-star customer experience? Because they know that's how they'll keep their customers and not have to spend money to get more. Watch this. Most people think this. They think that homeowners leave one carrier to go to another because of rate increases or deductible increases, and that's just not the fact. The fact of the matter is that carriers lose homeowners, policyholders at the point of claim. If what you as a carrier have promised a homeowner to deliver during the time they need you, you don't perform it, they take their money and they go somewhere else. That's why managed repair programs are being utilized, because these managed repair programs are putting contractors, basically hardlining them to make for sure that the experience that the carrier requires is actually being delivered, because it costs less to keep than it does to acquire. So the 2020 growth expectations, hold your seat. By 2020, they're expecting that less than 1% to be 10%. Guys, let me ask you something. If it is 10% of the market, don't you want to, or wouldn't you want participation in that? Well, you might say, well, the managed repair is not in my neighborhood. Well, there's really one of two reasons why. Number one, you hadn't had storm-related activity lately, or there's not enough policyholders in your area to really substantiate it now. I am telling you, though, your backyard's being looked at, and sooner than later, there's going to be managed repair programs that are coming in. And here's what I would leave you with on this topic. If you're not going to take these assignments, somebody else is going to. It'll generally be your competitor. Let me tell you one advantage to working these programs. One of the biggest advantages is this. These leads will usually get you into a neighborhood before anybody else gets in there, because there's real quick reaction from homeowners to the carrier. They get you in there, you can work the neighborhood, and you'll find a lot of success. When I talk to contractors, that's the biggest benefit that they see for these type of programs. So, what's the best fit for you, the contractor? The things you need to consider. Number one, who does what? Who does the inspection? Who pays for the estimating and the technology? And all managed repair programs are different. Labor and material costs, how's that allocated? How much of that you paying? Who's paying what? You just need to know these type of things. Who handles collections? Right? At the end of the day, you need to know how much time and energy that you're putting in this to make for sure it's going to be worth your while. And every one of them is different. Consider these things and you'll make a better decision, I think, in terms of who you want to participate with. So what business impacts should contractors expect? Number one, you need to be real careful how close to your core business competencies this opportunity is. What I mean by that? What I mean is this. If you're a roofer, you don't really need to be jumping into a managed repair program or a third-party administrator that really focuses on fire and water, unless that's where you want your business to go. Stay close to your core. If you're a roofer, get in a roofing program, because it'll be an easier transition. I'm not saying you don't get into water and fire mitigation, but you need to take that slowly. Get into a managed repair program that you're comfortable with fundamentally. Next question you need to ask yourself in terms of business impact is, how's this going to affect my cash flow? What kind of requirements? Meaning, how quick do they pay me? All those type of things, so that you'll know if this opportunity is going to be cooperative, so to speak, with your cash flow, or it's going to stretch you. Next, credit. Most guys have limited credit sources. So when a big storm comes in, the average guy has about $25,000 to $30,000 of credit available at supply houses. What happened? Which means probably 8, 9 jobs down the road into a storm, you're kind of locked up. So what provisions are available to you with the managed repair program you're looking at to help you not have to eat up your credit? How fast and what kind of promise do these guys have to paying you? I know all the opportunities sound good and they look great and all that, but you need to find out how fast you're going to be paid for the work that you're doing. And the last thing is a human capital demand. I've seen MRP'S that require 4 people to run one claim. I mean, it's just insane. Eventually, human capital and the demands on it become non-productive. So be very, very careful and ask questions. Guys, asking questions will help being a part of one of these programs lessen the blow and impact that it can have on your business. So, big question that I want to leave you with is this. What do you get? This is the big question you need to ask. What is it that I get for what I give? I call it the exchange.